his calendar like I go wait for everybody else's. They come on in these ungodly hours. So all the on the other side of the world are going to enjoy this while the people on our side of the world get the replay. What's good, bro?
Not much, man. Just spending my nice Saturday evening with you.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. All right, couple things you got.
One, go
Go
ahead.
for it.
Oh no, you go.
You put up earlier, my niece's husband has been part of a federal RRT, that is rapid response team, working in federal prisons for 15 years. He's 40 and was still able to run 5 miles carrying a 50-pound pack. He has had 2 COVID shots, then got COVID. He was in bed for 2 weeks, and when he finally got out, he couldn't even walk from his back door to the fence in the backyard without nearly passing out. Right. 6 months later, he has to get prepared to requalify. So he goes out doing his normal 2 mile daily run to the school and back. Gets 3 houses down the road, down the street, and passed out. Needless to say, he couldn't requalify, and now he's trained to be a prison counselor instead. Um, this one I did want to holler at you about. You and I covered COVID pretty hard a couple years
Yeah.
ago. I can relate to some of those symptoms. I'll tell any and everybody out there, if you're going through them post COVID symptom conditions, having it, still going through the stuff like you still had it, thinking you recovered and it's coming back, I can relate. Specifically and personally myself, I can definitely relate, because when you go to the doctor to get tested for these post COVID symptoms, they can't find nothing. I've got my proof. You was adamant on taking care of yourself, not having to catch it, what it takes, what you got to do when you do catch it, natural immunity. Go for yours on this, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's what I say. It's just I understand, like it was very new to us. None of us experienced anything like that, and just putting everybody in a panic. But a lot of the stuff didn't make sense. Um, you know, but that's why, like, when you're kind of being bashed for, oh, you're being selfish, you don't care about other people's health. It's like, well, what about my health? If something happens to me, then like if I, had a bad reaction to it, and all of a sudden I'm done, and I have to like forfeit my job because I can't function like a normal human being because I got it, the shot and all that. But like I said, it's just I was part of that wait and see crowd, because a lot of the stuff I questioned, a lot of the questions I asked, I kept getting bashed for it. I took a lot of heat, lost friendships over it, but hey, it is what it is. But the thing is, it's like it don't sit right with me. I'm gonna question it.
Well, the questions you asked, you've been justified with, in my opinion, from what I've been seeing. Even the people, and I said this last time, a couple people that we listened to and watched, they got shut out, chastised, and now they're being proven correct as well. And I constantly open the floor to you for this because of how adamant you were previously. I know a lot of what we said, and we didn't judge anybody. We just let it come out
Yeah,
and let them go for what they knew. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're hearing
symptoms,
everybody's
I
take.
know I've talked about it a lot with the symptoms after you have it. Everybody's going to be different. No two people are going to be the same. All this is true. Being able to prove what you're going through is difficult, and your job won't do anything with your doctor visits if they're not showing any results or they're not showing a post-COVID diagnosis. Everybody's got to be careful with it right now. So to me, right now, what's going on in the world is you can't even tell people or judge people properly because the information that was out, one, was falsified. Yeah, I know, Rick. What's going on?
Hey,
Uh,
Rick.
the door's open if you want to come up, man. Let me do this because Rick, me and you were supposed to chop it up one day too. So I'm gonna throw that out there for you. If you're able to come up, you can't prove what you got going on, so your job doesn't have to protect you. That's another issue we got going on right now. Nobody's talking about. Everybody's looking like it is what it is. Well, you ain't had this shit. And I'm gonna say it like that on purpose. I've gone up a flight of stairs, came back down, and damn near passed out. Somebody else saw me and sat me down, and that's when people started believing me. It's not a game. These symptoms, post COVID. Hey, Sadie, how you doing? Okay, Rick, not a problem. Appreciate you. Get you some rest, man. We do still need to talk. I know what you was messaging me earlier. I would like to know about that. I've heard some controversial things about that platform, but I'm gonna check it out. Remind me to talk about that, Brian, please.
All right.
All of us up in here who have gone through it, and even people who know people who have gone through it, you're going to meet people who have no problems whatsoever. Then you're going to meet people like myself who are still going through shit.
And
You don't
yeah,
know when you're going to get tired and fall asleep. I'm going to say that to everybody out there one more time. You don't know when you are going to get tired and fall asleep. I've driven to work and sat in line and fell asleep with the car running. So
yeah,
no, I'm not playing with this shit. And
yeah,
I'm saying that I'm not going to filter myself with this because a lot of y'all come up in here, run your yap, saying all this, saying I'm gonna tell y'all myself as a personal witness. I'm gonna give you personal testimony. You ain't got to research or Google shit. I'll tell you myself.
yeah,
Whatever people are going through that you don't believe, holler at your boy.
yeah,
Fatigue, muscle aches, a little bit of memory loss. Those are the three main ones that I've gone
yeah,
through. And I've done
yeah,
it. You got to go get the stress test. You got to go get the scans. You got to go get the examinations, all that expensive shit that you got to pay for that a bunch of you with benefits don't understand. But those of us with co-pays and others who have not had benefits like myself in previous life or previous employment have had to pay for. It's not a game. Go ahead, bro.
yeah. It was just like with my best friend. I mean, like he's double vaxxed and boosted, and yet he still time after time he was getting sick. He took a day off, he was sick, and here I am. I'm still not vaccinated, and I'm still going strong.
Uh-huh.
So it's just kind of like in my like from my perspective, I feel like I made the right choice of not getting it because it's like he looking at him, we're the same age. Um, he's taller, slightly heavier than he's heavier than I am, but yet his job is not physical, mine is. But yet he's still from time to time getting sick when I thought this was supposed to help build up your immune system.
Uh-huh.
But yet he's getting sick time after time. He hadn't got sick in a while, but like those during those 2 years, he was like he got the wrecking ball effect, just standard cold, whatever. But he's like he tested negative on the second go round, but yeah, he still I didn't understand that. It's like you're double vaxxed and boosted, but yet you're still getting the wrecking ball effect of being sick. And
Yeah.
here I am, not vaccinated, and I'm still going strong like nothing's bothered me.
Well, there's people
That's
who were not vaccinated that damn near died as well. Just to let you know. And that guy was on the news
yeah.
down in New Orleans. Nothing against what you're saying, but and it may have been staged. I ain't gonna lie. It may have been staged.
And then you got all these then you got all these reports where, you know, all these young healthy athletes, clean bill of health, and all of a sudden now they're dropping like flies, heart issues.
You
So
know,
how does
they say that's what happened with Jamie Foxx. He got the
yeah,
vax.
yeah,
He got the vax. It just came out last week, and I don't know if it's a rumor or not. I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but that's the story. He got the vax, and it damn near killed him. Redman was on Power Book 2 Ghost with Method Man and everybody. The reason why he's not on this season because he didn't take the vax. So there's people still against it. I understand that. We also need to look at the fact that they got stories out there. They're gonna put the vax in food just so they can go through all the vaccines that they made. Have you seen that?
that's
Yeah.
crazy, man.
Yeah. They're gonna push this out there. Now, for those of you who think we are anti-vax or we're just talking against it, let me go ahead and tell y'all something. There's also a story out there that the vaccine can help you survive a post-apocalyptic event. Nobody's talking about it. Now, I didn't say that link. For a lot of people out there that's wondering this, wondering that, y'all Google that shit and look it up. I don't care if it's a hoax. I don't care if it's a conspiracy theory. Right now, you need to look into any and everything that's out there. Go ahead and do your digging. Go ahead and do your research. And then I want you to remember one more thing very specifically. They lied to your ass 3 years ago. What makes you think they're telling the truth now? Seriously. All this stuff, you need to go ahead and read it. Weigh your own eyes within yourself. You start reading enough
Yep.
articles, enough aspects. Yes, Eleanor, how you doing? I got a link in the chat on if you scroll up on my Twitch or my YouTube, you should see it up there. How you been, lady? We got problems with the information we're receiving, and even from the sources we're receiving it from, whether it's reliable or not.
Yeah, that's when Blaze and I had that talk. Misinformation. What is the truth? Because if we're reading the same thing and we're reading different articles on the same about the same topic, and you see the biases,
Mhm.
who's telling the truth?
Post-apocalyptic means after some shit, a lot of people ain't going to survive.
Yeah,
I.e., nuclear
at the,
blast, i.e., asteroid, i.e., alien, all that bullshit.
or
Post-apocalyptic.
or idiots in government
Eh, eh.
and
I'm
society
going for more
and
of the natural
society
disaster.
overall. Society overall.
I'm going more for the natural disaster.
Nah, I'd say society.
I give you the society part because if
We're
you got
gonna
a war and
we're
shit's
going
all
we're gonna
blasted like Chernobyl and all that shit, yeah, I give
yeah
you that.
we're gonna purge each other.
That's going to be from a panic. I'll give you that. And the
And that's
panic is coming. I do believe a panic's coming.
that's what they sent us in 3 years ago. Beginning 3 years ago, we put us in a panic.
Well, you know what's crazy? People was in a panic, but they were united because more people was against what was being told to us than what we were doing. Now, there were people who were blaming non-vaxxers for spreading it, but I'm gonna get on them because they didn't pay attention to the story in the first place. The very first thing they said about it was airborne. Whether you was vaxxed or not, your ass is going to catch it. Your ass is going to pass it. Because they talked about how fast and how easily it mutated. It didn't
Yeah,
fucking matter. There wasn't nothing you was going to be able to do. It
yeah,
was airborne. You was going to breathe it. It survived.
and then you had like Sheila Jackson Lee saying, you know, oh, if the black community had reparations, they would not have caught COVID. It's
What?
like that
I've never heard that. I've never
She,
heard that.
Sheila Jackson Lee. It's on C-SPAN. I was like, she literally said that. She was like saying
They're
like with
planning
the
for the future, Eleanor. That's what they're doing. I've never heard that, Brian. Brian, that's brand new to me. I'm not going to lie.
yeah. I'm sitting there going like, she obviously. I was like, it's airborne. It's not racist. It's
Oh,
she
don't
she made
start
it.
that one.
Oh, I just did.
Don't
She,
start that one because
she
apparently when the vaccine was actually when the virus was created, it was supposed to attack the reproductive systems of African descendants. That story was out there. Matter of fact, they were testing it before it became a pandemic in Africa, and it was sterilizing women. Nobody talking about that.
hmm
Nobody is talking about it. And killing kids. That's how they came up with the toxic shock syndrome. Nobody talks about that.
right. So yeah, when she said if the black community had reparations, they could get better health care to combat COVID. I'm going,
Because they were charging $1,500 for the treatments. I know what you're saying with that when it first started.
but still, reparations still ain't gonna help.
I don't think reparations would have helped. Now would have helped you with the medical coverage. But the only reason you would have been correct is the medical coverage was still wrong back then. A lot of the doctors, and I think it was last year I saw a story. A lot of the medical professionals and medical groups were suing the World Health Organization for the pandemic.
Yeah, and so one of the other doctors that I follow, Z Dog MD, how he's talking with other medical doctors from across the country and around the world, like what's going on, sharing notes, and a lot of those other doctors are saying like, yeah, like they're threatening to suspend my license if if I continue on with like doing my research, like because she's reading like a lot of them reading virology reports, a lot of them are trying to do their own research on it, trying to see trying to get a difference of opinion, but from their superiors, it's like it follow this or else.
That's what it was. That's what it was. A lot of medical professionals wouldn't even speak on it because they were stuck.
Yeah,
I did talk to people who would speak and who would not speak.
yeah,
Nobody was telling you how to take care of yourself. They couldn't tell you much else.
yeah, and then on top of that, like how like any medical procedure, it's like yeah, you have the right to get a second opinion. That's okay, but when it came to the vaccine, you weren't.
Right. And that's real.
Yeah,
That was extremely real.
yeah, you can get a second opinion on anything else, but not the vaccine.
Back then, you didn't. And honestly, you didn't have to take it. They were highly recommended. I know before I took it, I waited
Not
on purpose. And like I said, when my son got it, that scared me more than anything.
yeah,
They want him in the hospital on a ventilator because the hospitals, number one, were filling up. Number two, if you had it, they had to send them somewhere. And it didn't mean it was going to be a local hospital. I literally had a coworker, excuse me, at the end of 2020 who had gotten an accident. They didn't have any room in the hospitals here. He had to go to the hospital 5 hours away. I was like, nah, I'm not putting myself through that. So when I got it and he got it, I was terrified.
No, Ellie, no, it's not that. It's just like how if you were to get it, you could get a second opinion on anything else, but when it came to the vaccine, you were not allowed to get a second opinion about it, whether in regards to your health.
They found ways to put it in people.
Yeah,
They found ways to diagnose you. They found ways to diagnose people. They were actually damn near told any of the conditions that fell under the asymptomatic or pre-existing, you were going down for COVID. That was a big news story. Huge. Anything that
yeah,
was lines, damn near anything that if you came in the hospital, you got COVID because they got checks for diagnosing people with COVID. That was the truth. That was the truth. That was out there.
yeah.
You got a car accident, it's COVID. Spoiler alert, they tried to throw COVID on George Floyd. Where did COVID come from on that situation?
Yeah. So,
I'll
and
be
then,
all day.
yeah, and then the clip that I sent you earlier,
Yes.
it's like that was when I watched that whole thing, I'm like, whoa.
The post symptoms are no joke.
No. I mean, yeah, but the Kim Iverson video, like, because she said like they were doing that in California, and she lives in LA.
Sure. You got time to watch it?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna run it then. Y'all
Yep.
check. And like I said, a lot of times when people wait a minute, I was saying that they'll take care of one. No, they won't take care of the second opinion if I already got one. So if you got an opinion, they'll take care of one, they won't take care of the other.
Mm.
Yes. That's a lot of people out there. Fully understood. We're gonna run this real quick. This got sent to me. It's gonna be about 20 minutes, y'all. Personally, I say check it out.
During the pandemic, one of the more frightening abuses of power that we witnessed was governments wanting to enact isolation or quarantine camps for people suspected of having COVID-19. They didn't even have to prove you had COVID. They just had to suspect that you'd been exposed. And because of this possible exposure that you may or may not have had, they could force you to remain locked in your home or worse, in a facility or a camp. Now, luckily, their authoritarian ideas were challenged in court successfully. With us now is attorney Bobby Ann Cox, a New York attorney who recently won the landmark lawsuit against New York's Governor Kathy Hochul and her Department of Health for their unconstitutional isolation and quarantine procedures regulation. But shamefully, the governor and attorney general are now appealing Bobby Ann's victory because they want to retain the power to lock you up or lock you down at will. Bobby Ann, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you for having me on, Kim. It's great to be here.
So why is it that they're appealing this? First of all, let's get to the case itself and how you won, because a lot of these cases that I've seen over the last couple of years that are challenging these COVID measures and winning, they're winning on, I would say, aspects of the case that those of us just in the real world, non-attorney, non-legal people, they're not winning on the merits that we'd want them to win on. Like, hey, that's authoritarian, so you're not allowed to do that. Instead, it's like, well, it was the wrong agency that enacted or it wasn't fair because you didn't lock everybody down. So tell us this case and how it was won.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, I brought a lawsuit against the governor of New York and her Department of Health. I'm representing in that lawsuit a group of New York State legislators. So Senator George Borrello, Assemblyman Chris Tague, and Assemblyman Mike Lawler, who now is Congressman Mike Lawler, together with a citizens group called Uniting New York State. And basically, we sued the governor and her Department of Health based on this regulation. And our claim was, look, you don't have the authority to make this regulation. You don't have the power as the governor or an agency beneath the governor. This is a power that's reserved for the lawmakers. This is a power that would go to the senators and the assembly members. not to the governor, right? This is not a monarchy. The governor can't just snap her fingers and get what she wants. So that was the whole premise of the case, was separation of powers. They were not abiding by separation of powers. But I do want to point out to your viewers what this regulation said. It was unbelievable. It gave the Department of Health the power to pick and choose which New Yorkers they could lock up or lock down. They could have locked you up in your home, or they could have removed you from your home with the force of police and put you into a detention facility of their choosing. You had no say where you went. And they could have held you there or locked you in your house for days, for weeks, for months. There was no time restriction in that regulation. And they could have done this to you, but they could have done this to your child or your grandchild or your elderly parent. There was no age restriction in that regulation. There was no way for you to get out once they put you in there, meaning there wasn't a procedure built into the regulation that said, for example, oh yeah, you can take a test, you could prove that you don't have COVID or that you don't have tuberculosis or, whatever other disease is on their list. No, you had to sit there at their whim and stay in lockdown or in lockup until they said that you could get out. I mean, completely unconstitutional. There was
And they could
no
take
due
your
process.
they could take your baby, for example. You say that there's no age restriction, so they could just say, you know what, your baby's been exposed, we're taking your baby away from you and someplace
No
else.
age restriction at all.
Wow. And no way to get out. So they didn't even bake that into this regulation. So
Nope.
you
So we
you
were
challenge
having,
this. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say we were having oral arguments in front of the judge last year at the trial court level. And the judge asked the Attorney General's office, he said, okay, let's say you take a family and let's say you put them into isolation or quarantine in a facility somewhere, like a hospital, let's say. Once they're in quarantine, how do they get out?
And what was their
And
answer?
yeah, well, there was a nice long pause as the Attorney General's representative thought about it. And then finally he said, well, I guess they could hire a lawyer and they could sue us.
Oh my gosh. That was their answer. It was hire
That,
an attorney and sue us to get
that
out.
was the answer. Yep. And the judge said,
Wow.
he said, well, isn't that kind of a lengthy and expensive process? I mean, look, I mean, lawsuits take a long time, right?
And they're
Lawsuits don't
expensive.
happen
Yeah.
in 2 or 3 weeks, right? It's not the way it works. It was just unbelievable. The court struck down the regulation as unconstitutional because it said basically the governor and the Department of Health breached separation of powers. But also, we have a quarantine law in New York State. Most states, if not all states, do have a quarantine law. But our law has many due process protections built in so that the citizen can't be abused by the government.
Yeah.
The number one thing that our quarantine law says is you first have to have the disease before you can even go to step number 2, right? So
Right.
there's this whole process. There has to be an investigation, and you have to have an attorney representing you, and you have basically a hearing in front of a judge, and then the judge decides whether or not you should be put into isolation or quarantine. But not just if you have the disease, it's also if you have the disease and you're not protecting others around you,
Yeah.
right? Then they can issue the isolation or quarantine regulation order. And you can only be put into a hospital, right? This regulation that the governor made, they can stick you wherever they want to stick you. There's nothing saying they have to put you in a hospital, and there's no investigation. There's no hearing in front of a judge. It's literally just they feel like locking you up, they can lock you up. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Let's try to, just think from their perspective for a second. I know it's going to be difficult for both of us to do because it just sounds so insane. But okay, why would they want to make a new regulation? What was in their viewpoint wrong with the current quarantine procedure that you just laid out? Why wasn't that going to work from, let's give the most best faith answer we can come up with as to why they thought they needed to do that? What do you think it was?
So I can tell you exactly what they argued in their papers last year and now on appeal. They feel that they need the power, meaning the state, needs the power to be able to lock people up or lock people down in the event of an emergency. And in fact, the attorney last year, when we were doing oral arguments, said, well, don't you want us to have the ability to control everybody if there's an emergency? You know, we need to be able to tell you what to do. We have to keep everybody safe. You know, so their idea is they want to centralize the power. They don't want these individual local health departments or individual local municipalities, the mayors or the town supervisors. No, no, no. They don't want you to have the power. They certainly don't want it to be a judge having the power, because then you have to go through all these formal due process protections. They want the power to be given to them at the state level, and they want to be able to do it literally like with the flick of their pen.
Right. So they want it quick, and they want the power at the top, and they want to be able to do it fast. And the current quarantine law has a process, and so it can't be so quickly. So maybe the best faith answer that I could think of is they're thinking, well, a disease that spreads so quickly. So if, you know, one person gets it and within a day, you've now spread it to tens of people. We've got to isolate you quickly. We can't wait for all of these, you know, you get an attorney, you get all this stuff. We've got to just be able to, we suspect you've got it. We got to be able to throw you in, lock you into your home or someplace else, because we don't want you to continue to spread it. So they're thinking like, this is too fast moving. We've got to be faster than it if we're going to beat it. And so we've got to be able to have the power from the top also to be able to do this. That's maybe the best faith. But of course, obviously that, yeah, I mean, for one, we know in particular with this disease that didn't work. None of that was going to work anyway. Everyone was going to get it. So when you won in court, what was the merit you won on specifically?
So the court struck down this regulation mainly because it conflicted with our New York State quarantine law. So basically with separation of powers, you can't have an agency or the governor making a rule that overrides or conflicts with a law. Okay. The separation of powers that we have, not just in the New York State Constitution, but in the federal Constitution as well, is that we have 3 branches of government: judicial, which is the courts; executive, which is the governor or the president at the federal level; and then you have the legislature. Right. So the legislature makes the laws, where the governor and her agencies are supposed to enforce the laws. They're not supposed to make rules that conflict with the laws. So that's what they did here very clearly. And that's why the court struck it down.
They make laws all the, I mean, they make, you know, executive orders, right, or new regulations all the time. But in order for them to get away with that, because we see, like on the federal level, presidents making an unprecedented number of executive orders. It seems president after president, the number of executive orders keeps growing and growing. But they can only do this if what their executive order is does not conflict with an existing law.
Right. So regulations, which come from the executive branch, they come through the agencies. Regulations, they have to actually have a law that enables them. So it's called an enabling statute or an anchor law. So otherwise, if you don't have that rule, you'll have agencies making up things that just whatever they want to say, whatever they want to order, whatever they want to do, they'll just do it. That's not the way it works. The legislature has to pass a law, and that law can then enable the executive branch to make a rule or a regulation to help enforce that law. Okay. So in this case, there was no law that told the Attorney General, that told the Department of Health to make this quarantine regulation. They did it because they just wanted the power.
My gosh. Okay, so now you won on that. Like I said, I wish the win was actually on you can't take people's rights away by locking them up indefinitely. I mean, maybe that would be another case that could be fought a different day. Would that have been possible? I mean, obviously, when you're taking a case to court, you have to pick what you're going to sue on. Could you have done it on this is ripping freedom away from people without due process?
Yeah, we did argue that as well, and the judge did make that part of his decision. His main reason for striking it down was that conflict between separation of powers. You can't have this power, basically, is what he said to the governor. Okay. And he also did note in his decision that this regulation lacked due process. You
Okay.
have to have due process protections built into the regs and into the laws. And so he did also mention that in his
Okay.
decision. And if people want to read the judge's decision, we actually have a web page that's specifically set up for this lawsuit. And people could check it out. You can actually go click the link and read the judge's decision. We also have photographs on that page, videos, interviews that I've done. There are social media flyers there that people can post on their social media to help
And
raise awareness.
what's the
And
website?
the website there is www.unitingnys.com
Okay, got it.
/lawsuit.
Got it. And I'll have that
So
link down below there. I have that there. So, but wow, yeah. Okay, so they're now appealing this. What's their grounds for appeal?
their grounds for appeal is that they argue the judge erred when he struck this down and declared it unconstitutional because they're trying to say, their regulation doesn't actually conflict with the quarantine law. They're trying to argue that their regulation complements and
Oh,
clarifies the quarantine law. So, it's a pretty flimsy argument, in my opinion. I think it's pretty clear that those two things are in direct conflict with each other.
yeah.
Um, they try to argue that there is due process built into that regulation. Again, I can't see how they're making that a straight face argument, but that's part of their argument. So they're asking this appellate court to overturn the judge's decision from last year. They want that power back. They want that regulation to be reinstated so that they
Ugh.
can have this immense power. It's an unfettered power to
And
do
you know what
whatever they want.
this also shows us that they plan for another pandemic. I mean, this isn't just the COVID pandemic's over. I mean, I see that some people are wanting to bring back some masks and there's some things here and there, but by and large, it's over. So this means they're wanting to use this power for a different pandemic. They're thinking we've got to have this ability. I mean, that's the scary part about it is that many of us just want to move on with our lives after COVID. We want to put it in the rearview mirror and never think of it again. And they're saying, well, except we want to keep these powers that we were able to gain during the pandemic. We don't want to lose these powers. That's really, really frightening. So when does this case go to court again?
So we have oral arguments in front of the appellate division judges on September 13th. And that'll be in New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division in Rochester, New York. And it's a panel of judges. The trial court, it's one judge, and now it'll be a panel. And we'll see what happens. I mean, they're going to have their chance to argue, and I'm going to have my chance to argue, and we'll see where the judges end up. But it's pretty scary because if they do overturn that decision, if they give
Yeah.
them back this power, it's not only going to give them the power to lock people up or lock people down at will with no proof of illness, but it's also going to send a signal to other agencies, not just in New York, in other states, I'm sure as well, saying, hey, look, agencies, you can make whatever rules you want. You can make whatever regulations you want, even if they conflict with existing law, because look, we got away with it here in this case, right? So it's going to set a really bad precedent. It's very important that we retain our win at the appellate division. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, it's, geez, I really hope you do. I mean, I absolutely wish you the best of luck in this, but with, New York and California, I'm in California, you're in New York. I mean, these states really, really abused their powers quite a bit during the pandemic and really showed their authoritarian sides. And we saw that in other liberal states as well. And I mean, the only thing I just was thinking while you were talking, I was thinking, maybe ultimately this ends up has like a silver lining in some way where the liberal states tend to be the most populated states. And so people are now fleeing, right? Like, I'm out of here. I don't want to live under these crazy laws. And they're moving to the more conservative, the red states. And so maybe this will kind of balance population out around the country where people start moving to new places like my home state of Idaho. We're seeing an influx of people moving to places like Idaho, moving to places like Texas or, Wyoming. We're seeing all of these people moving around, and maybe it'll balance out the population a little bit. I don't know. That's because these things are really insane. So, Bobby Ann Cox, thank you so much for joining us with this. This is a frightening, frightening law. One of the more frightening, I think, out of all the laws that are out there during the pandemic. The ability to throw you in a camp is the scariest of all, I think, besides like forcing a medicine to be shoved into your body. Those two are fundamental rights that we should be able to have over ourselves. I should be able to say, no, I don't want you to inject me with something to make it mandatory or I lose my freedoms. And I also don't want you to cart me away into a facility, a camp, or tell me I'm not allowed to leave my home. Those seem to be very fundamental rights that really slipped through our fingers during the COVID pandemic. They really showed themselves masks off, right, during the pandemic. So, Bobby Ann, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, Kim.
All right, there was a lot in that one. I was actually good with it. So, Brian, I appreciate you showing me that. I know it was long, so I apologize to everybody, but they took on and justified a lot of what we just said. Now, what I didn't realize is how much the states are trying to take over more than the federal. But based on what did happen a couple of years ago, I see where they're coming from as far as being able to control what's happening. The problem we're going to have is the funding is always requested from the federal level. There's going to be a clash with the federal and state money, and then everybody being able to take it. It's going to be a damn mess. Those are cool. Eleanor said the MORE Act. Actually, what she said first. Let's not be idiots. Period. The conflict is going to be how to take care of something naturally and then medically. That's the clash. And I emphasize what Brown was going through a couple of years ago, what I had gone through when I was like, I'm going to be on the fence because I don't know what to trust. Everybody went with the medical professionals, but now that we're seeing they're wrong, we're screwed. He was coming from the natural immunity side of things, and he's fine. Not everybody is, because I do know people who didn't take it and didn't make it. We got a clash, big time. She emphasized the MORE Act being on the floor. I remember telling people about this when they made marijuana legal. It was just the House level. Didn't get through the Senate, didn't get through the president. I think the president is pushing for it. I remember hearing stories about that. And what they're doing, minimizing penalties, but legalizing it entirely. Certain states got it, not every state. Matter of fact, most states that I've been to, they're selling it. What's the word? A weaker version of the marijuana people normally use. Now, I would also we need to be careful of the marijuana they're smoking because of the shit they're doing to it. And if you don't know, you might want to look into it.
Yeah.
They doing some stuff to that new weed, y'all. Let's be clear. This ain't weed from the 70s and 80s. This is some new shit.
Yeah, and then also too, like the Impossible Burger and all that. It's like that's kind of chemicaled up too.
Everything's got too much estrogen. Spoiler alert. Everything's got too much estrogen. Get to work. In the last 11 days, you've been on 2 airplanes, not one mask, mouth breathing. Yeah, and I put a mask on a plane. I'm not scared of society, but what I don't want you to do is breathing death in my face. And I don't want to breathe my death into you if I got it and I don't even know. I think everybody needs to have a mask on the plane. Pressurized cabin air, recirculated. Let me be clear. Fuck around if you want to.
I flew to Phoenix and back, no mask. I mean, it was just.
Now we got this motherfucker. Random Rickers in the house. Appreciate you coming through. Legalize that. No, stop it. The next pandemic that's coming. I'm glad she mentioned that. Because I don't know if people have heard about it. I did see a story on it. Should we be concerned and worry about stories talking about the future? No. It's based on what we went through. And like I said, they told us about the symptoms of COVID and the situation that COVID brought about in the movie Outbreak. Outbreak was over a decade prior.
Yeah, that's like that movie came out in like what, early 90s?
90s. Everybody was running with Contagion. I was running with Outbreak because it was the same shit, except for where they got the original Patient Zero from. And let's be clear, they're going to look at annihilating people sooner or later. If you're going to just be sick and you can't recover, they don't worry about you no more. I talked about it on the broadcast one time before. Y'all saw what was happening in New York, and Cuomo went down for a lot of that. They actually had an island full of just dead damn bodies. They were putting them in refrigerated trucks. What we got here, they talked about any kind of pandemic could have been where the moves about. Yes, but like I said, those symptoms were very similar to what was on Outbreak. If you watch Outbreak, watch what happened. The minute he sneezed, people were just sick all over the place. Mind you, COVID was airborne. And that's the point I emphasize, even though I understand what you're saying. Pandemics are every 100 years. Folks won't buy in until that much time passes. I kind of give you that random, Rick. And I want to say there being a lot of the issues, the major health issues going on around the world, it's happening a lot. I'll go with bird flu, swine flu, West Nile virus. Then we had COVID. And that's been within the past 10, 20 years.
Yeah, I mean,
now, 2009, if you had bird flu or swine flu or whatever, they was quarantining people for 2 weeks. So I don't like what I'm seeing with none of these diseases, no damn more. COVID shut the world down. I didn't believe COVID was real or that they were going to take it serious until sports started shutting down, and then Vegas shut down. Then they shut everything down around the damn world. Now, whether that was a hoax or not, they fucked people's mind up. They owe us for lying, if that really didn't happen. But Vegas was shut down. I talked to people out there, they were like, nah, they shut the building down, turned the lights off. We was in trouble. I think the best way to get through the next pandemic is everyone start talking. Go ahead, Brian, because I'm gonna shut up.
I was gonna say, like, are you familiar with the comedian Alonzo Bodden?
I'm trying to stay on point. You want to go with this shit now?
No. Just they did a little enlightenment. It's about 3 minutes.
I know Alonzo Bodden. Yeah.
Go ahead, play it.
I'm gonna run to the last one, then we're gonna wrap it up because I'm not gonna be up here all night with you when you got this.
All right.
This is the news. Who's paying attention? They just throw shit out there. Who is listening? Every day there's something new. Something's gonna destroy us all. Then it disappears. Swine flu. I love the swine flu. I do. I'm a huge fan of the swine flu. You know why? Because swine flu is the only disease that comes and goes depending on what else is in the news. And then they always come up with this thing, oh my God, it's a swine flu. It's the worst disease in history. It's gonna kill us all. It's an absolute pandemic, and we're all gonna die unless you wash your hands. That's all they got. It's the worst thing in history unless you can kiss a pig long as you wash your hands. That's not a pandemic. We used to have flus you could respect. Spanish flu, now there was a kick-ass flu. Spanish flu killed hundreds of millions of people worldwide. You know how powerful the Spanish flu was? If we were in a room full of people like this, one person, oh shit, we're all dead. Seal the doors, we've all got Spanish flu. They're trying to scare me with the swine flu. Well, what happened to the bird flu? Remember the bird flu? Weren't we supposed to be dead by now? No, really, I don't know about you, I stopped paying my bills. I did. Hello, Visa? Bird flu's coming. I ain't paying shit. No, we're all gonna die. It's on CNN. I'll go out with a low credit score. It's okay. Yeah, I can die with a 517. I don't mind. Sorry. Bird flu. Sick chickens. That's what that was. They tried to scare us with sick chickens. We got wars going on. We have an economy that almost completely collapsed. We got terrorism. We got everything in the world is wrong, and I'm supposed to be scared of a few sick chickens? Oh, 50 people died in China. Really? There's 1 billion of them. I'm not gonna panic because a few of them checked out. I wasn't scared of bird flu. I was trying to catch the bird flu. Maybe it'll offset my SARS. That's right. Yeah, you remember the SARS? Every time an Asian coughed, oh no, it's the SARS. Think I was worried? Hell no, I was shooting up with the SARS, trying to beat my mad cow. That's right. You remember the mad cow? Huh? Every time you ate a hamburger, oh no, that might have mad cow. Think I was worried? Not at all. Vaccinated myself with the anthrax. It's all bullshit, and I'm not scared. There's always something that's gonna kill us all. A few years ago, tomatoes were deadly. Yeah, a tomato was going to kill you. And the year before that, it was spinach. The FDA is run by a 7-year-old kid that hates vegetables.
I ain't gonna lie. He brought up Mad Cow. I almost forgot about Mad Cow, but I'm very stiff on Mad Cow. That's why I take all my meat and I can make sure it's well done because of Mad Cow. Bird flu, SARS. He said Anthony, he threw them all out there. I forgot about a couple of them. You're right.
Yeah, he said, yeah, we got other shit. We got wars going on, Russia and Ukraine. We got the economy about to collapse. We're in inflation.
He's
I'm sitting there going, and that was done 5 years ago.
Alonzo Button's been around since Comic View in the 90s.
Yeah, but
He's been around. You're
but
right. And he be telling it. He be telling it. You're right.
and that was 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, they making them up. We got duped. Random Rick. I saw when you said we got duped. I'm gonna tell you like this: what I went through, I don't think so. Eleanor could testify to what she went through as well. Eleanor wasn't trying to throw you out there, but I know the stories you told us. And when I started going through with it, I hate to say it, but I had to go through some of this shit to defend a lot of people. But I will, and I'm going to. We got to be careful of anything and everything out there to get ready for the next one. In my opinion, it's supposed to be next December. Supposed to be.
Oh man, I'm supposed to be flying to London in December.
You go out there if you want to. Look up SEERS, severe enterovirus epidemic respiratory syndrome. Enterovirus. Now, I could sit here all day with some of the stuff that I look up and some of the things that I've seen. Apparently, the norovirus, N-O-R-O, is running rampant again. I saw they got a new strain of COVID. You got SEERS coming soon. I'm reading all this shit, man. And everybody's like, I don't know. I ain't worried about you. Ain't gonna worry about it till it gets here. Okay, you saw what happened last time. Fuck around if you want to. I'm just being real. I ain't after nobody. I'm trying to protect folks. If I'm doing too much, that's fine. But I'd rather we be prepared to get blindsided like we did 3 years ago. We got blindsided hard. They talked about it for about 3 months, 2 months before it really kicked in. And it was barely out there because the news came out in USA Today in January. The article that I saw. Just everything I used to. Yeah, there you go. And Eleanor had it last year before me. She's still going through it over about 18 months later. That's why I had myself on the 18-month scale based on what she was going through. Woman, I told you I'd be appreciating your ass. We need you around, damn it. Drink more. I understand the orange juice.
Yeah.
Right. I remember. Right. Mind you, there were people passing away the year prior, and they couldn't diagnose what was wrong with them. I dare say 6 months prior, definitely. A lot of explains deaths. I was almost putting on it based on what they're saying the conditions were. Because mind you, if you are immunocompromised, y'all might want to look that word up. I-M-M-U-N-O, compromised. Which in my opinion is 90% of motherfuckers walking the planet because everybody ain't got 100% immune system. Fuck that. Between the air, the food, the water, and your job, your ass is immunocompromised. Play with it. You see that? You see my background. I work on those.
Yeah.
I work on those. Everybody's job ain't safe. Construction. Food services. Medical. First responders.
And another thing that was weird too was like when you go to the grocery store, how they got the plexiglass up.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're checking your items out, they're still touching with their bare hands.
Well, they stopped when the pandemic when it was no longer declared a pandemic. They're not worrying about it no more. The hand sanitizer done disappeared from everywhere all the time. People ain't selling masks. You can go get masks that were made that they're still trying to sell on Wish. I'll get a bunch. I got a month worth of masks.
Yeah. But I mean, but overall though, like Kim Iverson, in regards to the whole vaccine and all that, like she like went hard in the paint. She was on the Hill for a while, even challenged some of the one of the co-hosts that tried to give pushback.
Mm-hmm.
But when she showed him, like when she told him up, like, hey, look, this is the studies, this, and this. She left the guy with no leg to stand on.
They don't have one because they can't defend it. Mind you, once you start talking to the virologists, and them the ones that got the real info, the virologists are the ones you need to be talking to. And that goes to all of us. We need to talk that doctor, but we need to talk to these virologists. Them the ones like, even they can't even say nothing. That's when I got nervous.
Yeah. So Kim Iverson, she's not a part of any network. She's 100% independent journalist. She was a contractor on The Hill, but apparently because they were going to have Fauci on the show on The Hill, she was not on the list of interviewers.
She was going to go at him.
She was going to go at him. She was going to challenge him, and they didn't want that. So they went ahead and terminated her contract.
See, Fauci was the face. Even he didn't have all the information. I'm gonna just go ahead and say, even he didn't have all the information.
Yeah, she was gonna go hard in the paint on that, and they said no. She was in. She goes, "Wait, I thought we were a team. This is a team effort. This is a team thing. This is what you told me." But the fact that her like Fauci's team didn't want her because she was going to go in.
A bunch of them doctors that was going to tell the truth are dead.
Mm-hmm.
See, he listens to a lot of people. I listen to a lot of Reza Islam. Brian is Joe Rogan.
Not Joe Rogan.
You were on them damn Hodge twins too, them jokers.
They're funny, but mainly like all the medical stuff. I mean, I'm like reading stuff like on Up to Date, listening to Z-Dog, mainly all the podcasts from Z-Dog MD, how he's talking with other doctors that are going to the pain, pediatrics, geriatric doctors, and all this other stuff. Like he's talking with them all. And a lot of them are saying like, yeah, we come in with research, we're sharing notes with other doctors from other parts of the world, the top elite doctors, and a few of them do.
And a bunch of them can't even say nothing. I used to listen to Sanjay Gupta a lot. He was all right for. Then I noticed he started changing up his speech.
Yeah, because
first he was on it.
He was on it, but then when Don Lemon gave him that look, like, remember who write your checks. That's when you saw him. That's when you saw Gupta do that change.
He had to. Bro, I'm glad you made it up here. I'm glad we had a chance to do this. I know it was late. I'm getting tired, so I don't want to hold you up. Appreciate you. Been wanting to do this for a while, man. So I'm glad we had a chance to do it. I will have some time tomorrow. Wait a minute. No immunocompromised when you're on something like my biological take for my Crohn's disease when somebody got to do something. Yeah, well, I mean, anything that stops your immune system from being 100% from what I remember. And this is what I originally read 3 years ago. If you're 100%, you're technically immunocompromised. Technically. The original pre-existing conditions that had you susceptible to COVID, there were like 33 of them, at least. I fell in the category of 6 of them, personally myself.
But now more and more, as far as like journalism goes, a lot of people are tuning into independent media. Because right now, like mainstream they've lost faith. I mean, people just like, we don't trust them anymore.
You can't even trust them because that's the information they were given. That's why I don't blame them. Their information is controlled. We know this.
Yeah, I mean,
not wrong on, but we're going to have a hard time finding an independent source that's reliable because they're going to start checking all of them.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think. Like Kim Iverson, she does her homework, and she even says that. She goes, before I go on the air, she goes, I spent hours and hours, even a weeks at a time reviewing this study, like all of this stuff. So go to Kim Iverson on her YouTube channel. She has a shitload of videos. Like she's doing deep dives that mainstream media won't go into.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got other outlets
that
like
too, Eleanor. That part too.
And then also too, you got like Hard Lens Media. Like they're they mainly do politics though, but a lot of because everything's like heavily politicized right now.
Yes.
So it's just Kim Iverson, Hardlands Media. You have Combo Couch. You had because a lot of them are just like they're blowing them out the water.
They are. And
CNN was doing everything they can to sue them, to shut them down.
Well, a lot of them were trying to say what they could at first, and they had to stop. I caught that too.
Yeah,
I only say that because I was home watching it every day.
Yeah,
I was catching something different with every dot on every network, every channel.
Yeah, even Kim Iverson got suspended. She was put in YouTube jail for a while because they're like, nope, you can't be saying that. Can't be saying that because it was disinformation or misinformation. And she's like,
and they're all
why
justified right now.
Mm-hmm.
Every last one of them. Bro, where can they find you at, man?
Snapchat, Thailander F1_F150, and I'm still toddling that line. Should I plug back into the Matrix? Because if I do plug myself in the Matrix, are y'all gonna be ready? If I go back into the Matrix,
I'm ready for your ass. I already know this. That's why we need hats back.
Yeah, by the time I'm gonna text you and Ted and JoJo, be like, "Yep, got banned
Before
again."
y'all get in on Reach and Go Live, holler at your boy. You already know. I'm gonna keep it clean for you. I just need my access back. I'm gonna shut this down, bro. Good seeing you.
All right.
I'll be around tomorrow if you want to do something as well. To everybody coming through, Eleanor, Random Rick, Mayor Rick Costa. I know Sadie was in here. Let me see who else I don't want to listen to.
I sold my TV, stopped listening to podcasts, and only communicate with my dog and the people that I fuck. The people that I fuck. I'm not an expert on anything.
doing
Not
this.
really, but I just stopped caring. If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. I'm done. So
Oh my God.
wow.
Eleanor, I told you about that craziness. Y'all see me around definitely. Appreciate everybody for coming through. You should see me tomorrow. I came off of music for a little bit, trying to expand everything that's going on. So I'm glad Brian popped up. We'll catch y'all again soon. All right. Peace.
From
y'all.
Texas, from Georgia.